I am Dr. Jean Engohang-Ndong. I was born and raised in Gabon, which is a country located in Western Central Africa. It's a French-speaking country. I am from a particular ethnic group that is called the Fang, who live in the northern part of Gabon. They are also found in the southern part of Cameroon. It's found in Congo and in Equatorial Guinea. All of these countries are located in Central Western Africa. Well, I started my education in Gabon. This is where I grew up. I went to elementary school, middle school, and high school in Gabon. Then when I obtained my high school diploma, I started my undergrad education also in Gabon at a university called University of Science and Technology of Masuku. And after completing my associate degree, I obtained a scholarship that allowed me to go to France in Europe, where I continued my education, specifically in biology. I obtained my bachelor's in biology, my master's degree, and eventually my PhD in medical microbiology. So my education was really between Gabon and France, where I completed my higher education. As I said, I started my education in Gabon, and boy, I really have my best memory of education in Gabon. From my elementary school, where my dad was elementary school teacher. He was always on my back, pushing me to achieve the most of myself. I tried as much as I could, but then when I completed elementary school and I had to go to middle school, I had to basically go from the town where I was living with my family to the main city, the capital of Gabon, which is called Libreville. So I, in a relatively early age, I left my family to go study in a different city. The experience was really a mixed experience because I was far away from my family. There was a lot of struggle, but also a lot of accomplishment. And I was able to obtain my high school diploma in spite of the fact that I was living far from my family. And eventually I went to college. And when I reached college, this is really where I think I really exploded, where I knew exactly where I was trying to achieve in higher education. I applied myself extensively. I have to say that schooling was not easy. It was not easy because the grading system is very different from what is developed in the US, and also different from what is developed in Europe. It was pretty challenging, but the challenges actually prepared me to go to Europe and basically be able to pull it through in Europe. So in conclusion, I would say that my experience with education in Gabon was really great. I have my best friends who are people I studied with when I was in Gabon, and we are still in touch today. It was a great experience. When I went to Europe, I was excited. I felt prepared. And now let me kind of backtrack. I went to Europe with a scholarship. So I was pretty good leaving Gabon and confident When I went there, academically, I was doing good, and I had a group of friends who were supportive. So we spent a lot of time together, studying together, hanging out together. However, one of the major frustrations I encountered when I was in Europe, it's that this was the first time of my life I realized what was like being a minority, what was like being discriminated against. I had never experienced that when I was in Gabon, but when I went to France, it was obvious how different the treatment was for me coming from Africa, and for my other friends also coming from Africa. So it was very frustrating. Nevertheless, it was an environment where I learned to really push against the tide, navigate against the current. So that strengthened me, made me stronger. So at the end of the day, I was able to pull it through and obtaining my bachelor's degree, my master's degree. And really the few first years, my year in the bachelor program and in the master's degree program were really the challenging years. This is where I had to take regular exams and where professors were obviously not very fair, some of them, if not a good number of them. So we had to do some extra work. Now, it didn't bother me to work, but what bothered me was basically the unfair treatment that we as Africans were receiving in Europe. However, when I went to my PhD program, this is really where I had the chance to be rewarded based on my accomplishment. So it was really a great experience to go through my PhD work and see how my achievement was rewarded, because I received my PhD with the highest mark and the highest appreciation from my evaluators. So it was a great experience as a PhD student, and eventually I left Europe very satisfied with my accomplishment. I'm always excited when I talk about my PhD work, because this is really where I get to express myself. My PhD work was around improving the treatment of tuberculosis. Now, I think that I said earlier that I obtained a PhD in medical microbiology. Now, when I started my PhD, I got into a project that was focusing on studying tuberculosis. And tuberculosis is an infectious disease caused by a bacterium, and that bacterium is called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Now, one of the things we know about tuberculosis is that when you get diagnosed positive to tuberculosis, you receive a treatment that can be either first-line drugs, which is a combination of 4 drugs, or second-line drugs when you are infected with strains of tuberculosis that are resistant to first-line drugs. So my PhD work actually was focusing on improving one of the second-line drugs that is called ethionamide. That work allowed me to not only be able to unravel the mechanism of action of ethionamide, but also to discover possibilities for making ethionamide a first-line drug. So some of the mechanisms I went on developing through my discoveries were basically that the high concentrations of ethionamide that were prescribed to patients could be decreased by tenfold. Now, the mechanism is a little bit complicated, so I'm not going to go into the intricacies of that. But at the end of the day, I obtained a patent. I developed a patent for the work I did on improving ethionamide for the treatment of tuberculosis. So in a nutshell, that's basically what I can say about my PhD work. When I was a PhD student, a lot of the research papers I was reading were in English. And also, as a PhD student, in order for me to complete my PhD and receive my PhD, I had to write research articles, and most avenues to publish those research articles were journals that are published in English. So I had to learn English. While I had learned English during my time in the classroom, however, my English was not anywhere near what is needed for a conversation or to actually communicate effectively in writing papers. So a lot of the work I did when I was PhD student is to work with my PhD director, who actually was fine-tuning my writing. And so I was very dependent when it came to communicating in English. That was very frustrating. So I decided that after I complete my PhD, one of the things I would do would be to go to a place where I can be immersed in an English-speaking environment. So one of the places that came to mind was the United States of America. So 6 months prior to defending my PhD, I really actively started looking at postdoctoral positions. I did eventually obtain a postdoctoral fellow position at the Public Health Research Institute in Newark, New Jersey. So my first intention coming in the United States were, one, get to master English, as a researcher, I had to communicate not just orally, but also in writing and understanding, being able to understand what other people are saying when I attend conference. So that would be a good opportunity for me to improve my English. So the major reason why I came in the United States was really for language, but also in the process, go through some improvement of my research skills. I worked at Kent State University in Northeast Ohio. Now, let me digress a little bit. When I came in the United States in late 2003, I came as a researcher. I was hired by a research company called Public Health Research Institute, located in Newark, New Jersey, as a postdoc fellow. Now, as a postdoc fellow, I served at PHRI for 4 years. During that time, I realized that I was lacking interaction. I was missing interaction with the academic world. So I decided to try to get a position in the academic world. I eventually secured a position at Brigham Young University, Hawaii, where I served for 4 years. I was mainly teaching a wide range of biology courses, including microbiology, basic intro biology for biology major, and biology non-major. So eventually I completed my tenure there after 3 years and joined Kent State in fall of 2010. In fall of 2010, I joined Kent State as a tenure track assistant professor. I went through the tenure process, was eventually tenured and promoted to the academic rank of associate professor in 2016. So I kept working hard, and in 2022, I was promoted to the academic rank of full professor. So I am a full professor at Kent State University in the Department of Biological Sciences. I do teach a wide range of biology courses, including basic microbiology, lecture and lab, human anatomy and physiology, human biology, life on planet Earth, human genetics, a wide diversity of biological science courses. In addition to that, I do research on infectious diseases and also on chronic diseases in human. I also do some research on environmental microbiology. So for infectious diseases, I'm more interested in studying bacterial infections, including tuberculosis and Buruli ulcer, to name only these two. In terms of chronic diseases, I work with some partners in Gabon on heart issues, on diabetic issues, on sickle cell disease, and many other conditions. So in a big nutshell, this is basically what I do at Kent State University. Ekaza, it's a non-profit organization. Ekaza in my native tongue means bridge, bridging the gap of access to education, persistence, and degree attainment. And how do we achieve these goals? We achieve these goals by providing educational support services, including academic advising, one-on-one academic advising, academic mentoring, and tutoring. Also, because I am a scientist, a biologist, one of the things we also do at Ekaza is to expose children grades 1 through 12 to science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine. By doing so, we hope to instill in our children the desire to pursue a career in STEM. Now, why did we develop Ekaza-Bridging the Gap? We developed Ekaza-Bridging the Gap because I, Dr. Jean Engohang-Ndong, I am from a first-generation college student. Being from a first-generation college student, I understand the difficulties that a lot of our students who are minority, low income, and first-generation students experience. They often navigate the intricacies of higher education without the kind of assistance that they really need. And the reason why I understand this is because I myself was a minority in Europe. I was a low-income student in Europe, and I was also a first-gen college student. So in a lot of ways, I was lacking the kind of support that I really needed to be successful. So I had to be intentional, very self-motivated, because a lot of those who went to school with me, who were not as self-motivated as I was, didn't make it. So being also a faculty at Kent State University, I do see a lot of students on a daily basis who are otherwise very smart, but who are not making it through. Why? Because they don't have the proper academic support that is needed for them to be successful. Also, we notice that minority, low income, and first generation are very underrepresented in STEM. So to foster their interest in science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine, I developed Ekaza to intentionally expose this underserved student population to these disciplines so that they can be part of a community that is thriving by them bringing their contribution and changing what the landscape of the community looks like with a good representation of each population group in key professional areas. So these are some of the rationales why we developed Ekaza. And by intentionally lifting up underrepresented populations, we as a community are thriving together. So we want to break the cycle of poverty that we see in our community due to lack of intentionality in tackling the issues that we have in our community. When I'm not teaching, doing research, or working on my organization, I love spending time with my family. This is really a passion of mine, to spend time with my children, to spend time in the outdoors. I love hiking. I love walking. I can walk all day long. And also, I love just working around my house, working on projects. Recently, I got done building a deck for the pool I got for my children. That was a really cool project. I mean, it was challenging, but it was something I really enjoyed. So I love spending time with my family, outdoor, walking, biking, and working around my house. So I want to really thank you for taking the time to listen to me, listen to my story, and the story about Ekaza. I really appreciate your consideration. I highly encourage you to join Ekaza and support what we do so you can get your children enrolled in our programs. You can talk to your neighbors to get them interested in what we do. And you can also support Ekaza in many different ways by donating material, by donating your time and talent, by donating some of your finances. Whichever way you think you can provide support for the good of our community is very welcome. So thank you for your time, and until I see you next time, take care.